what I think might be the most important, powerful tool everyone has to make their lives better. And that's the ability to choose your own actions, your own attitude.
If I'm better today, I end up better tomorrow. That actually does change the past, because my past, instead of being a sad story, can be a story of triumph over hardship.
People whose lives are just a mess, and then they start eating right and working out, and they start to see their body change. And all of a sudden now they get a promotion at work, and now they have a girlfriend. It's not because they look better, but it's because they took control in one aspect of their life and it started to bleed over.
There's always something else. There's always another party. There's always another holiday. There's always a reason to put this off.
Quit listening to everybody else.
And like Mike says all the time, just give a shit.
The things that you take action on and control and your attitude will put you in a position to benefit from luck a lot better than if you're the person sitting back and just hoping something good happens to you while blaming the world. If you look, you might be the common denominator for all the bad things that ever happen to you and continue to happen to you. So it becomes about a change of attitude.
Welcome to Stronger You Radio with Mike Dola. Join Mike and friends as they discuss issues to keep you healthy, fit, and on track to create a stronger you. Let's listen in now.
Welcome back, Stronger You family. This is Mike Dola here with another episode of Stronger You Radio. We're back with a special treat, something you've asked for a long time, with Dean and Anthony, the brains behind Stronger You Fitness.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Andrew Coates here. We keep forgetting to introduce ourselves, so people listen to these two voices and sometimes don't know which one is which.
I'm Dean.
And we've been bringing back a number of guests lately. We brought a couple of our other friends, and all three of the guys work for Stronger You as coaches. Our friends Jeb Johnston and Derek Stanley. So I think it'd probably be best if you guys each sort of individually introduced yourselves a little bit about your backgrounds. So we'll start with Derek.
What's going on, guys? I'm Derek. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Really excited about it. Been a coach for Stronger You for about the last year and a half. And before that, I was a personal trainer at a really large corporate gym in the States called Lifetime Fitness. I worked there for a little over 5 years. Background, degree is in kinesiology. I've always been super interested in movement and performance, all that type of stuff. And then more recently, I've gotten my certification in precision nutrition, and right now I'm actually working through Mac Nutrition University and trying to finish that up. So
good choice. Yeah. We've talked a little bit about those certifications before. I hold precision nutrition, so does Dean. I recently actually met Martin McDonald at a conference here in Edmonton, and that certification is something I'd love to do because that one's really highly regarded.
Yeah, man, it's been great so far. I really enjoy it.
Jeb.
Hey guys, Jeb here. Let's see. My background's weird. It's not definitely not directly from the fitness world. I started out in my life as a musician. Went to music school in Nashville. Was a songwriter. Toured around a little bit and was playing music, which meant I worked in bars. So I was a bartender, ran nightclubs. I didn't lift. I partied. It was a good run. But then later I moved into hairdressing, which is also kind of a strange choice.
That's an ironic piece of information.
Yeah,
Jeb has no hair.
I was a hairdresser in New York to like celebrities, supermodels, kind of a weird run. But then it kind of led into fitness. I started training with a good friend of mine who became a really close friend of mine, Sean Heisen, who was the editor at Muscle and Fitness and Men's Fitness for years. And he just kind of taught me everything about training, about the history of all this stuff. And at one point, I was out to dinner with him and Ben Bruno, and they were like, well, why don't you train people? I was like, I don't know. What do I have to do? What certification should I get? And Bruno looked at me and was like, all right, stop thinking about it. He's like, if you go get a certification, study every day, 3 months, I'll find you a job. I ended up just working on my own. I was just personal trainer and took on private clients. And that's kind of what led me to that. Nutrition's always been a big thing with me, probably for 15 years, but I really got into it in the last 4 or 5. And knew Mike and Alessi and ended up working for Stronger You starting about 6 months ago. And I actually don't train a whole lot of people now. I have 4 main clients, but nutrition's, I love it. It's kind of my main gig, and do a little bit of online coaching, and but mainly nutrition.
But what I liked what you said, Ben doesn't have an extensive academic background, and actually neither do I in fitness. My degree is actually in business. But
his as well.
Yeah.
And running bars. He's like the same as you.
Well, I used to own a bar too, funny enough.
See?
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Really?
I used to own a martini nightclub. That's a long time ago too. And party lifestyle scene too. So wild stuff. But ultimately, and I believe this for personal trainers, like if you can take a road early on to go for kinesiology degree or, that straightforward education, great idea. But you can get a lot of people who know a lot about fitness, been enthusiasts a long time. You get certified and you just continuously educate yourself from people like Ben Bruno, who's one of the best people I think to follow. You can be an amazing coach and acquire what is the equivalent of a master's degree in training over the years of practice and study.
Yeah, for sure.
I just heard all that and I was just like thinking, we're meeting in Sedona. You can line me up. I need to get my sides done. I was like, you're a hairdresser? That's
I actually had this. Finally sent my wife to a buddy of mine to cut her hair now. I've kind of given up the reins. And the worst thing is he deadlifts more than me now. So I used to call myself the world's strongest hairdresser, and now he's got like a 6-something deadlift at like 165 pounds. So I was like, okay, I'm done.
That's why you got out of it.
Yeah.
he basically put you out.
Yeah.
Speaking of hair, so Nick, care to share a little bit about you again?
Graduated high school at like 270 pounds. I met a girl I liked. She didn't like me, so I lost 100 pounds. Decided I wanted to get into fitness. So it was like my sophomore year of college. I hit up the head strength coach at the University of Louisville for the football team, asked him for a job, helped a few dudes get into the NFL. Then Charlie Strong, the head coach, went to Texas, so I didn't have a job again. Started doing personal training in person, and I was actually following. So you said Ben Bruno. That was one of the first guys I followed alongside like Nate Green and Anthony Michael. And so I started realizing that like the online thing was like a thing. One thing led to another, and I ended up working with a guy named Jack Cassio and the professor, that old And1 player. And then kind of went off on my own and started kind of networking. So I went to the fitness summit, started doing all that stuff, still doing personal training. I did that all the way up until 2016. And I hit up a guy named Slavan Blanco. He gave me a job. He was doing kind of like strategy coaching kind of. And his network kind of led me to a bunch of opportunities. So I ended up with Stronger You, working with.
You can kind of tell anyone listening that we kind of all know each other through different means and avenues, and we have kind of colorful past. And I think that that's why we brought everyone on here, because we have a unique perspective on some of the stuff we're going to talk about.
Here's where it goes. And this is what we're going to make the whole episode about. We have the ability to choose our actions and our attitude in the face of events beyond our control. And we want to bring you guys all together to talk about what I think might be the most important, powerful tool everyone has to make their lives better. And that's the ability to choose your own actions, your own attitude. So I'll ask all of you guys to go through this stuff. How can we get people away from this fatalistic victim mentality to a place where they feel in control of their own outcome?
We'll let Nick start it off.
So there's been like a few things in my life to where like I could have like played the victim and stuff like that, and it would have been really easy to. So like how I mentioned, like I liked a girl and she didn't like me, and then I suffered from bulimia for like 2 years, like pretty severely, and both those times like I found myself in a spot where I like literally thought to myself, asking, what happens if I never change anything? What happens if I never do anything? And asking myself that question, like whatever the answer was like very painful. Like what happens if I die and I never get over this eating disorder or whatever? It kind of became more like I took control because I had to, because I couldn't stand like suffering long term. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of have to get to. They have to get to a point where like whether it's someone trying to lose weight or someone trying to like start a business or like quit their job or like whatever, like it's almost like less about the goal and more about like what happens if you don't get the goal. And a lot of times that pain itself kind of like manufactures like control, because it's like you have to. It becomes a natural instinct, So I think it's like what anyone has to do. Like if you want to take control, like there has to be a painful reason to do it.
Jeb, you alluded to kind of some rougher places in your life, and obviously you made some changes. So
yeah, I mean, kind of similar to Nick. I never had an eating disorder, but I was a pretty severe alcoholic and drug addict. So, I mean, at one point in my life, I was facing a 25-year sentence for felony assault. Long story short, I got jumped outside of a bar by a big guy, and he didn't like that I was 145 pounds and knocked him out. Luckily, I got out of that, but I continued to drink. Went to rehab multiple times, 1.4 months in a rehab in Pennsylvania. And I guess I was lucky in the fact that I just always realized that there was a reason that my life kept getting screwed up. And that reason was me. So I never really felt like a victim. Now, I came from an alcoholic abusive household. There was a lot of things in my life that I definitely could have looked at. And there was times when I said, it's not fair. Why me? But at the end of the day, I was like, like Nick alluded to in the preface we had, it was up to me to change that. Now, I think it's very similar to what a lot of clients face when we talk about fat loss is people that might be obese or have, very big issues with eating. I had something that was out of my control, and that was alcoholism. I needed to take steps to find help in order to get that into control. And so once I was able to take those steps and find things that allowed me to have some semblance of control over life, that helped. Now, the happiness quotient actually comes, I think, from realizing that I really don't have control over very much and to only control what I can. So when we talk to clients, I think it's helping them realize that if they control what they put in their mouth, those things that are out of their control sometimes are a little bit easier to deal with, if that makes sense.
It makes tons of sense because actually I was just reading the book Originals by Adam Grant, and he talks about Andre Agassi being the youngest of 4 kids. Their father was obsessed with the idea of having a tennis champion. The first 3 didn't make it. So his father was a abusive person who pushed him and pushed him and pushed him. And if Agassi's famous, everyone remembers, he wore long hair or mullets and earrings and pink pants and all this other crazy crap. And that was his way of taking control in ways that otherwise he didn't have control over his situation. This manifests in negative ways, often with things like eating disorders, because people are taking control in unhealthy ways over where they don't feel like they're in control of other aspects of their lives. I don't know if you guys want to elaborate on that thinking.
Let's let Derek handle it. Derek,
let's bring Derek
in the hot seat. You don't have.
I was trying to be quiet. Like, I don't want to have to follow up those stories from Nick and Jeb right there.
Nick's clean cut, man.
I think, like you said, the most important thing is understanding that you are, always in control. You may not be able to control what happens to you, but you can control your perspective. So, for example, I consider myself pretty much the Derrick Rose of fitness. I don't know if y'all watch the NBA, but he's always hurt. Like, he can be walking on a flat surface and break his ankle. And, it's really easy sometimes to get down on yourself and play the whole card where you feel sorry for yourself. And, it's like, I might as well not even work out today because this is hurting or whatever. But the most important thing is that I just keep on trying to show up, even if I feel like crap, even if I'm injured, even if my hip is killing me, just go in, start doing what I can do. And, eventually after you get into it for 5 or 10 minutes, you start feeling good again. And, some of the things that I've learned the most from are from my injuries. Like, whenever I've hurt my shoulder, I seek out guys like Tony Gentlecore and I go to their seminars and I learn all about shoulder mechanics and I learn about the freaking muscles that attach to the scapula and all of that. And then that stuff helps me go on and help my clients with it. And I guess that's a roundabout way of saying, like, shit's going to happen to you. You may get hurt or something doesn't go the way you want it to, but there's always something that you can take from it. And that's what I always try to portray to my clients too. Like, no big deal. It's going to happen, but tell me what we can learn from it and what we can improve on so that doesn't happen next time.
You need to hang out more with Anthony Harder because Anthony's chronically hurt. Well, blew his pec.
I'm pretty sure that's the reason why I learned so much personally too. Is just literally all my injuries pretty much define my path. But I think that I guess if you're talking with clients, the whole goal would be the process of reframing issues into wins.
Yeah, I was actually training someone yesterday, and we were doing bench press, and he was talking about how it was like hurting his shoulder, and I'm like, all right, well, on your next set, just do this and do that, and we'll see how it feels. And he did his next set, and he's like, dude, I had no pain on that one. How did you know that?
How much of it do you think has to do, even in that situation there, like you changing their mental mindset on that? It's more mental than it is the actual problem. Like, you could have probably told them anything and it probably would have fixed it. You know what I mean? Like the placebo effect.
Yeah, that's probably definitely a role there. Yeah. Also, just the fact that there are things that you can do to put yourself into a better position to reduce the pain as well.
There's a whole bunch of notes that I made about this one, and I think that hopefully we'll hit on all of them. I've worked in environments before where there was a lot of negativity and a lot of complaining, and it's very easy to get sucked into that negative mindset. And I think moving away from complaining, because again, I think that's victim mentality. It's like, oh, that person did this. Oh, this shit's not fair. And not allowing yourself to be surrounded by that kind of negative thinking, negative talk, and even our own negative self-talk. That's a different conversation. Have any of you guys been in situations where, you realized, hey, I'm in a really negative environment. It's affecting my attitude. What have you done in that situation? What do you think people can do?
The very first time you notice when people are being needlessly negative and you notice how it's affecting you, you'll notice it every single time after that. Like as soon as a ton of people start bitching and especially when you start partaking, your mood will just plummet. I think literally what you have to do is you have to eject as much as possible. And now sometimes we don't have control over that. So if you're at work and you're in the office and everybody's bitching about something, that you can't just leave work, But I do think you have to you have to actively remove yourself from that solely to kind of protect your own headspace. And sometimes that may suck because, your friends may be what they do for fun. A lot of people bitch for fun, You have to remove yourself. It's really that simple. And you're still going to do it at times. We all do. You got to be willing to catch yourself, check yourself.
What I do now actually is because a lot of the time I'll hear negativity about, in a gym setting, it might be a trainer, another client or something, just seeing something in the gym and they're negative about it. And I'll always say this, you know what? I used to be in an environment where I'd get pulled into that and I would care more about that sort of stuff. And right now I really try not to dwell on those negative things. That what we're talking about actually doesn't affect me. I'm glad you recognize that as unprofessional or problematic, but I'm going to try to look for little positives and just not get pulled into that negative conversation.
Well, and even one thing I wanted to ask, even with that, is because we got you guys here, is what do you think, I guess, for the coaches listening, how do you frame that in a way to tell someone that, especially when you know that's the problem? Because I think that's, how do you communicate that to someone without being a dick?
Okay, yeah. So you actually have to there's a really specific way to do this. And this is anytime you're talking about a problem to anybody, you first have to validate the person to some degree. You have to meet them where they are because anytime you come at someone, their defense mechanisms are going to rise immediately because they're going to feel attacked, right? So you have to bridge the gap and meet them where they are to some degree. From there, you literally once they feel comfortable, then you can start to diffuse the problem. You start to kind of bring logic to it, and then you kind of lead them with something actionable. So you have to make them comfortable. You have to show them the logic of what's wrong, and then you have to give them a better way. You have to do all three of those and kind of in that order, because if you just attack someone, they're not going to take to it. And if you don't give them something actionable, and it's a waste of everybody's time. And Derek actually did that the other day with a client really well. But that's usually how I go about doing it.
Derek?
I usually handle those types of things really similarly to the way you do. Like you said, try to validate them and then get to the what the problem actually is. So
yeah,
and I think again it's case dependent so much too. Yeah. I mean, most of my clients, I'm very much hey, how can we do this better or what? But there's one client I have, and we have a great relationship, and after 12 weeks of the same thing, finally I was like, you know what you need to do? You need to reach down between your legs, grab a hold of those two things hanging there, and be a man. Because I don't want to listen to it anymore. And you know what? Because we have a good relationship, he kind of laughs. He's like, you know what? You're right. All right.
Right. Well, then in that case, still you still kind of validated them, but over the course of 12 weeks, right?
Exactly. It wasn't like in the
He actually was 12 weeks away. Have the quote ready. He's like, okay, boom, I'm hitting him up with it. You planned that.
You can't coach on emotion, or you're going to be in a bad place.
Yeah. Some coaches they try to because they're hyper disciplined, they just get pissed off when other people aren't.
Yeah.
Yep.
They have to remember if everyone's hyper disciplined, none of us would have jobs.
Exactly.
So you have to be empathetic to some degree. Man, I'm sure work is tough. You are going through a lot, and then you kind of hit them with the backhand.
Yeah, and I like to share my own struggles too. If someone's going through something, and let them know either how I've overcome it myself or how some of my other clients have overcome it. So then it's like removing them from it, you know, and it's like, and giving examples from other times or other people who have done well with it. If that makes sense at all.
I'm a big believer in empathy and sharing. You know, you very invariably, because my clientele are virtually all in person. I only do a little bit of online coaching, and you become friends with them. Like a lot of great friends in my life are current or former clients. And yeah, like I'm really, really comfortable with, you know, to a certain degree, it's their time, but, you know, opening up and sharing and what you're going through as it relates to the stuff that they're doing. You have to walk a fine line with it. I think some trainers are very walled off and they treat themselves like, you know, clinical professions like physiotherapy or psychiatry, where, especially in that case, legally and ethically, you can't share or become friends with them. Despite knowing that some people still do shit there. Sexual relationships with your psychiatrist is a dangerous place to go. But I think that, yeah. No personal history of that, don't worry.
Open up,
but
please.
No, there's nothing there. Just that sort of shit does happen. But at the very least, I think it's really, really okay to be friends with and develop good relationships with your clients and to share with them, you know, some of the personal stuff you're going through. And I think if you walk a fine line, because we have to sustain a very high level of energy when we interact with people. And if something's not quite right, I think it's really important to let them know, hey, you know what, there's this going on. We're not going to get into it too much, but to make sure that they don't pick up on it and think it has something to do with them. And then you can bring the focus back to them as well.
Good point.
Yeah.
I think that's like a concept lost on a lot of coaches in the sense like how to actually be authentic in your empathy, because people can read through bullshit a lot of the time, especially when trying to like get someone on your side.
We have people in the industry who fake empathy
Absolutely.
and fake authenticity. I don't know if you guys have seen that. So
For sure.
your thoughts?
I'll let Jeb, because I'll just get super negative with that, you know. Like,
Oh, you're asking the guy that
Let's
lives in
avoid
the home of negativity? I'll jump in on this because, I mean, the issue with that becomes, I think, the thing that I noticed is when after I went to the fitness summit and I friended all these people and everyone was in the same groups where they're getting all the same coaching, and all of a sudden on the same day of the week the vulnerability post comes out, and then there's the authenticity and you're like, dude, I mean, and trust me, I've written mine, but mine was when it was after 2 weeks after I got out of rehab, and I was like, I need to be honest with this, because if I don't, then I'm going to fall back into my old habits. This isn't about anybody else. This is about me and helping myself. And I think it comes from this idea that you have to be somebody else in order to sell something.
Yeah.
Whereas be yourself to make yourself not be crazy in this world of marketing and sales, and that'll be okay. I think people tried it to be somebody else.
Yeah, that's like cause it is like in coaching specifically. I'm sure this is like every field, but it's just a field that we're familiar with. Like you have like two kind of ends of the spectrum. You have people that are completely walled off, like Andrew said, that kind of like just play physiotherapist or whatever. Like, then you have people on the other end, which is all this manufactured authenticity.
Yeah.
Those are usually kind of marketers to some degree. And like, the thing is, like, you have to kind of flirt with both to some degree. Like you do have to like sell, like, right. Like to some degree. So like, being authentic helps there. Having a personality helps there. Like Andrew's talking about, like you do end up being friends with your clients, and that's because you're a personality, and that's one of the things that keeps them coming back. But once it gets manufactured, like it gets so, I don't know, it just gets so shallow so fast. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing there, and people start to like spot that, and it's so weird because like there's no like real reason to say like, oh, that's fake as shit, bro. but like you can tell it when you see it. It's kind of like, isn't that like the definition of porn? Like you can tell it you can tell it when you see it or something like that.
I can't explain what it is, but you know it when you see it.
Yeah. That's like literally
well, the interesting part without like skirting around this, because I always trash on business coaches, but like as a consumer, like how do you kind of navigate that? Do you think that they're smart enough to get it? And then on the other end, for coaches who are doing it, like, do you really think it's going to be that effective to be that manufactured? You know what I mean?
That's a good question. Like how can a client tell when someone's just being like a fake versus when they're being real?
And I guess, does it matter? Like, and that's another thing. Does it really matter if it elicits the change? And that's kind of where this whole thing becomes, we have opinions on it, but sometimes all it takes is that manufactured bullshit to get someone to make the change. So it's like, it's a weird area to be in right now.
for the client, like if the end goal is the same and they get to where they want to be and they're happy, like, no, I don't think it does change anything. For the coach's sake, like, I think 100% it does.
Yeah.
Because, like, once you're being, like, fake and you're just, like, entertaining all these false conversations, like, this shit will burn you out.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not a long-term play.
Yeah.
And then because it's not a long-term play, like, maybe the client that gets in the door immediately, you get to the end goal. But people that come in after them they're just going to be getting the burnt out you. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it doesn't last forever. You can't just rely on that repeatedly.
And the reason why I want to bring this up especially because we have a lot of coaches listening to this, is we have like 3 people who have like legit careers in doing this. And not to say that they're what you're saying is right, like you shouldn't be that manufactured, but there is some longevity that needs to be kind of taken into effect with this kind of stuff. Because if you're looking to get into this stuff and you're going to do the vulnerability post the week everyone's doing it, like, I don't know if that's sustainable. And I guess we don't know right now because it's kind of all been within the last 3 years. But like, your career needs to be a lot longer than that.
I think it's great to be real and to be vulnerable, but at the same time, like, trying to be over vulnerable every single day just comes off the exact opposite of the way that you intended to be.
Good point too. Yeah.
Like there has to be
or you come off as being so goddamn dysfunctional that you only attract people who are equally as dysfunctional,
right?
And everybody else runs for the hills.
I think as a coach and as someone who's just, been around for a little while, not necessarily just in coaching, but just in life, the real key to happiness, and I think Kyle Dobbs posted this the other day, is find your tribe. I mean, if you find people who are passionate about the same thing, and I'm sure everyone thinks we're all full of shit at Stronger You. I wake up and I love these guys so much. I get so much reinforcement. I feel like I've got the best job on the planet. And I'm 40. I've had a lot of jobs. Nothing has ever been anything like this. And I'm sure everyone thinks we're full of shit.
Well,
it sounds all...
the funny thing is, like, and if you look at kind of Stronger You, like, oh, we're so positive and all this shit, like, whatever. But, like, you were a hairdresser, drug addict who ran bars. Nick's crazy. Derek's the only normal one. So, I mean, like, there is a bunch of people in there that you wouldn't expect. But I think that that's what makes it kind of cool.
But then, like, I go and meet Dean and Anthony, and we go to watch Pat Davidson talk about, and I'm sitting there going, "This is it." Like, nobody in there is talking about a marketing plan.
No,
everyone's in there just they want to fuck shit up, and like that's my life. I go to the gym, I help my clients, I go do jiu-jitsu and MMA, and like that's all I really care about. And the beautiful thing about Stronger You is all the shit that I don't want to do, someone else does. They're going to have a marketing director, We got Nick that can write. We got Tanner who's doing like editorial stuff. I mean, it makes my life great.
Oh, we got Derek who can be the punching bag and let everybody make fun of him.
God, and it's beautiful to see.
Well, you said there, Jeb, and it sort of hit on one of the other thoughts that I thought would fit well into this was you're really good at having an internal locus of control, and that's sort of technical language for, again, feeling a sense of control of your outcome, or at least taking control over things within your life that you can, versus being that person who feels like everything is external. You have no power over anything. And we know that research or just practically, we know that that's not a very happy place to be if you feel like you're not in control of any aspect of your life. What do you think about, be it personal experiences, about finding things that you can control and building around it?
I studied Buddhism for a long time, so I look at the world as being almost completely and utterly out of my control. And by allowing myself to be in that state, I don't give a shit. So I am not affected by external things because they're not in my control. And the things like you said, like, what can I control? I can control going into the gym today. I might not even be able to control the weights I lift because I may feel like shit or whatever. I can control going to jiu-jitsu. I can't control the fact that I'm going to get my ass kicked for an hour and a half. For me, it's just being active in the world and being present. And I think so many people are stuck in the future and stuck in the past, and they don't spend any time in the now. And I think that's what ends up making people unhappy, is because they're worried about the future. Which, guess what? There might not be a future. I might fall off my balcony later and be dead in 10 minutes. Like, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about the past because I can't change that. All I can do is be better today. And if I'm better today, I end up better tomorrow. And that actually does change the past, because my past, instead of being a sad story, can be a story of triumph over hardship.
Not having control, like, is exactly what leaves people like upset and sad and depressed and anxious. Because like when you have something you can control, you have something you can work on. Your life suddenly has meaning, no matter how like silly that thing is. Like you have to find something you can control, no matter how small it is, because that starts to build momentum. That starts to get you in the right headspace, and that alone, the other things. That's why you have people whose lives are just a mess, and then they start eating right and working out, and they start to see their body change. And all of a sudden now they get a promotion at work, and now they have a girlfriend. It's not because they look better, and that might be part of it, but it's because they took control in one aspect of their life and it started to bleed over. Like everything kind of affects everything. And once you take control of one thing, it gives you a lot of control elsewhere. You can't control everything, but like you have to do that. Like, because if not, your life is going to suck and you're going to die sad.
If anyone wants to read a book that we got a few books that we'll probably mention, but read a book that hits on all the stuff you just talked about. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. So Mark Fisher suggested it in his podcast. We had him on a long time ago, and it's his favorite book. He reads it every year. I read it. Holy shit, it's intense because it documents Frankl's experience in the concentration camps in the Second World War in some pretty horrific conditions. And the underlying premise is that if you can find meaning greater than yourself, you can endure virtually any suffering. And if you also want to put into context the problems that you are currently dealing with, the things that you feel are beyond your control, read the book and see what he went through and the people in the same position went through. It'll change your perspective a little bit. But it's a really good book on finding a purpose greater than yourself, and you can tough out some pretty horrible stuff you never thought possible.
Even there's also some very Jungian aspects to that as well, in that seeing the depths of depravity that human beings can go to, and admitting that is a part of all of us, that none of us are immune to that. Also, I think helps us to see the good. Again, very Eastern philosophy kind of yin yang, but I think there's a big benefit to that as well.
Well, Carl had a quote that I shared with Derek earlier that was like, I forget I just thought the wording was pretty, but it was something along the lines of like, for like a tree to reach up to heaven, it has to have its roots buried in hell. And like, I thought that you do have to like,
so
like how we were talking about like control, like growth is like literally being uncomfortable enough to where you're growing, but like structured enough to where like it's kind of staying together, So like you have to have one foot in both sides. Like shit has to suck, but you have to like fight it anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like
you have to kind of learn how to eat shit, but like you have to
man.
Like it's horrible, but like we even talked, Derek and I, about our injuries that pushed us forward. Like it's almost like that struggle ended up getting us to that other place, but without that, we wouldn't have got where we're going. So it's not that we should search out injury, but I've even pieced together in my mind and like, did I do this stupid shit so I get smarter? Like maybe unconsciously I did, but that's how deep this shit goes. And I don't think that most people understand that process. And as coaches, the cool thing about Stronger You is you're not telling them to eat shit, but you are kind of building those skills in them along the way. And that's kind of the cool thing with process like that.
Once they get to a certain level, we will you have to tell them it's time to eat shit. If you want to reach that 1% or that 5% or be, that super lean person, if you want to do it, you're going to have to learn to eat shit.
Yeah, man. And it's like you said the other day, Jeb, like you said you texted your coach that the thought of eating more chicken and rice like absolutely makes you sick to your stomach,
Yeah.
But you've got to do it because you're chasing something that's a little bit more extreme than what most people are chasing.
I'm past my genetic limit.
Yeah.
One of my favorite concepts is to find opportunities within obstacles. Obviously, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday is one of my all-time favorite books. Everyone should read it. It's just that good. It makes me think about when I left my former employer, there were a lot of things going on that I had some problems with. And so there was a lot of battling back and forth with some other people. And because I'm high on disagreeability as a personality trait, I don't tolerate things. Oh, is that shocking to anyone? Anyone who knows me is going to be like, yeah, that sounds about right. There were some things that I wasn't happy about or I wasn't willing to tolerate. And of course, that put me in the line of the crosshairs of some other things. So ultimately, I did end up having to choose to leave. It was not a situation where I could continue to be. It was unhealthy for me. But because of the events that happened, I won't be specific. it presented me with the best opportunity in my career. It's the reason why I met all you guys. Was leaving, going out on my own, becoming a contractor at Evolve Strength, the gym that I'm at. And ultimately, a lot of the fitness professionals in the city saw that I was successful doing this, and they followed. So we saw the city's industry grow, and a lot of people do really well. But I look back, and everything that happened, I am grateful for it. I am thankful, despite that there was some discomfort at the time. Some of it was really stressful, because it led to a better opportunity. I'm able to make greater income. I'm certainly able to help more people. The podcast sprung out of all this stuff, because that's how I met Guido, is, in that gym. And again, all the stuff that, all these friends that I made across the industry. So I don't know, like, Jeb, you certainly sound like you've taken opportunities out of previous obstacles. I don't know if any of you guys had anything to add to that.
The one thing I wanted to ask, even with that, and with you guys, with some of your stories, were you consciously looking for positives in the shitty situations, or was that something you reflected on in like after the fact? You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm kind of annoying in that aspect. It's like, if people meet me, like, I'm a real black and white dude. I hate something or I love something. And people are like, how? I'm like, I don't know, because I'm not going to look at the shit, because I'm not going to, it's there. It's going to be there anyways. I might as well make something good out of it.
Yeah, I can actually relate a lot to your background, Andrew, because whenever I was training at Lifetime, there was just, and I'm super thankful for having that job, and it led me to kind of where I'm at now. But there's tons of things that I disagree with. But anyways, it was just those types of things that actually ended up leading me to working for Stronger You, and a company that I love and believe in wholeheartedly. So that's just one way where, a lot of kind of disagreements led to a much better opportunity for me, and taking something that works out better, where I can work from home and maybe travel a little bit more if I want to down the road, and all those types of things. So,
well, the reason why I asked that, even in the sense, like, is that when bad things happen, you almost name them for what they are, and then understanding them in the moment. And if you can get better at that process, you can start making obstacles, I guess, the way in terms of what the book is doing, but instead of it being like after the fact. So almost recognizing shit when it happens, because we talk about eating more shit, but if you don't understand you're eating shit, you're not going to learn from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. To me, all of life is the same thing that we preach at such a like micro level with our clients. Like, there's no good or bad food. Yeah. There's just fuel. Yep. Like, there's no good or bad people. There's no, I mean, it's all part of the same thing.
And not only is there like no good or bad foods, but it's best to think like even about your own situations, like nothing's really good or bad. It's just either something that it's just see what you can take away from it. And that's kind of something that they talk about in that book as well. The obstacle is the way. It's like, try to be objective about things and not have too much emotion with like every single thing that happens to you in everyday life. Like, don't always look for something, whether it's good or bad, like even a client will shoot me a text or something and be like, hey, is it bad that I went over like 40 grams of carbs or something today? And I'm like, no, like, it's not bad. Like, shit happens, but let's see what we can learn from it so that you stay on track better tomorrow,
What if it was 400 grams?
I wish it worked that easy. I eat 400 or 500 grams of carbs, and I barely put a pound on.
Yeah. Me.
I've been binging on Halloween chocolate. I bought 2 bags of like Henry bars and Reese's peanut butter cups when it went on sale afterwards. I've been collaborating this stuff, and I looked at the scale and like I'm down a pound and a half.
You're just buying a bunch of obstacles, man.
And people are just upset hearing this because like, fuck you.
Right.
Andrew's 260 though, and he's trying to stay 260. So you have to instead of it being shit, you got to literally eat shit.
And it's not like I'm fat or anything. Like, I'm not spilling over. So it's we're not talking 8-pack.
I'm only 180 pounds, and I'm even to the point right now where like my carbs are up over 450 grams per day, and like I've got to do shit like put coffee creamer in my coffee and and put honey in my protein shakes and stuff like that, just so that I can get that amount down without feeling like stuffed all day. So I can't imagine being 260 and trying to do that too.
You get used to eating the volume of food. I suppose that goes to one of the other things that I thought was a really valuable point to talk on, and that's just doing the little habits every day, no matter how bad things feel or whatever's going on in your life, so that way you can build to a better tomorrow. It's something I try to instill in my clientele a lot. And as I've gone through ups and downs, broken relationships and, various different like high points and low points in my career, my workouts have never been something I've been willing to sacrifice. My baseline nutrition is really, really good. And this is what I tell clients who are going through some rough stuff. I have a client who recently actually lost a family member. It was pretty devastating. Another client, a family member was involved in a motorcycle accident, and that sort of disrupted her lifestyle a bit. And both really felt the temptation to kind of let it all fall apart, because especially with women, they often tend to be the caretakers of the family, and there's this sense of guilt to put themselves first or even like do anything for themselves, as there's other people around them that they have to care for. And for some women, that's an ongoing thing just in their everyday lives. They feel like their kids and their family comes first, they come last. You still should, no matter what is going on, do some basic stuff, really instill those habits so that when you are caring for yourself, if you just had a really bad breakup and you're in a terrible place, the workouts, the nutrition, if you can prioritize those, there's going to come a point where you feel different, you feel better. You have put yourself in a very good position to come out the other side of it okay. It will help with your emotional battle with it, but it puts you in a good position as some time passes. I don't know. Thoughts on that, guys?
So earlier, I mentioned Flaw, the dude that Dev and I met through and stuff like that. And whenever he kind of withdrew from like the industry, he was very successful. Like it wasn't like I wasn't making enough money. Like he was doing really well. He just started being very, very burnt out. And he started to get to a point where he thought that like the way to fix that was to like just stop altogether, like to do nothing. And that he just needed like, a week off or 2 weeks off or whatever. And then it would just be back. But what happened is he did that. He just disappeared. And then I talked to him like a few months after that, a few months ago now. And he told me like things didn't get better. Like it just, that feeling just sat there. Like, so, and you see that people do this all the time, like whether it's for a good reason or a bad reason, like in diet, people will be doing really, really well. And they'll be like, they'll start to think they deserve to like take a day off or whatever. And then they can't get back on track. Doing like the little things like you said are so important solely for like the aspect of like momentum, which is like, it's almost become like a cliche because you hear it so often, but it's so cliches become cliches for a reason, like it's so important. Like it doesn't matter. Like that's why I tell people like if you're walking or like what, like just do it, just get there. Because like the hardest part of doing anything is like getting off the couch, like, and once you do a little bit, like you're always gonna do a little bit more than what you expect. You know what I'm saying? Like if your goal is like, well, I'm going to go to the gym and at least do one set, you're not going to stop at one set, And like, if you were trying to take some time off work, like maybe you just reply to your emails because it's not going to stop there. You know what I'm saying? You're going to keep going. But if you don't, it's going to be so hard to like get back on. I tell clients all the time, like if you win tomorrow, the day after is going to be so much easier. But if you lose tomorrow, the day after is going to be so much harder,
I like that a lot. Yeah.
That's something that James Clear talks a lot about in his book, Atomic Habits, too. And one thing that I really, really love from that I'm going to, kind of implement with my clients all the time is like, don't ever miss twice. So if you mess up one day, your next meal is good or you're back on it,
Yeah. That's the beauty of the whole thing is that you can fix everything. Like if you screw up when it comes to nutrition, you can be right back on track in another hour. Like you don't have to, like it's not a life screw up. It's an hour.
Yeah. 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 You don't have to start tomorrow. Like the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be.
Yep.
Yeah. It's and that's the big thing with people is like, well, should I start? I'm like, there's always something else. There's always another party. There's always another holiday. There's always a reason to put this off.
And it gets easier to accept those,
Yeah.
Like I remember in college, like my goal was like not to skip a class ever, which, didn't happen. But like after you skip like that first class, the first time it's like kind of stressful, but then the next time it gets so much easier. Like the first time you're late to work, the first time you snooze like the clock, or like once you give in once, like it's so much easier to like accept those excuses.
That's a really good point.
I like the fact that you brought up Atomic Habits. It was a book on the list I thought was relevant to this episode. It's actually not a long book compared to some of the other ones. Really easy to read. It condenses down some ideas from a more elaborate book on habits called Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, which is great if you're really interested. And it borrows aspects from a book called The Slight Edge, which is really about every day doing little things that don't feel like much, but they set you on the road to exponential growth later on as they add up. And that means working out every day. That means good nutrition every day, or metaphorically, virtually every day. Saving a little bit of money, like whatever, reading 10 pages of good literature to educate yourself. These are some of the concepts mentioned in there. these are really good baseline habits. If you can actually try to establish these things over the course of a week, it's not going to amount to much. It'll feel good. You've done this for 5 years to 10 years. And I think that I think all of us probably have done things like that. And that is why we are all here where we are. Jeb, your story and mine are actually more similar than you realize. And I certainly know that it's one of the reasons why I'm in the position I'm in versus, the aftermath of owning a nightclub and all the partying and the bullshit. And that was another obstacle situation that led me to move cities, change my lifestyle, and it's led to where things are right now. So it may not feel like it for anyone listening who's struggling with something that, just making that small step today, and don't wait till tomorrow, like you said, today, might not feel like much. It is the first step if you can keep those steps going, the way that it can add up is unbelievable.
Yeah. And there's like a compounding effect to it, right? So like 1% today is not 1% a year from now, right? It isn't just 1. It's, it grows over time because you start to become better at it. You start to become more efficient and more talented. And so your 1% today, like the same effort taken to get that will get you 5% next year if you start today. And it's kind of like saving money and shit like that. Like you said, it's so hard. Like you tell someone just save 5% of your paycheck. And people are like, oh, that seems like nothing. And then next year they're still living paycheck to paycheck. When if they had done that, they would have some money saved up and stuff like that. There's such a compounding effect to it.
I think, especially for our coaches, the career side of stuff too. And one of the ones I really like a lot is listening to Dean Somerset talk about how, when he first started writing a blog, I'm not sure if anyone past his mom or maybe a couple clients were the ones reading it. You look at the guy now and, he's speaking all over the world. His info products, he's got tons of them. He's actually probably one of the best public speakers we've seen in our industry. He's certainly grown a really big brand and name for himself. That added up over the course of a career that, was he been doing this for 15-ish years or so? It's somewhere near that. Yeah, it started humbly, but he's a guy who continued to work daily, regularly at these sort of habits. So as a coach who's trying to get out there into something, we see all these coaches now who want to be insta famous really quickly and have it happen overnight. It's not quite how it
That's
works.
the problem. I think the habits work, and it's easy for us to say do this habit and over time it'll compound. But that's the reason why fad diet works, is because it gets them that realization fast, and it's hard to sell over and over again. Sleep, eat your protein, all that stuff. It's not sexy, and it's just a very hard realm for us in this industry to kind of sell that. You know what I mean? So I guess, what's the best way that you guys made people able to realize that the 1% gains is where it's at?
When it comes to coaches and stuff like that, this is something I don't even know if I said it or if I just picked up from someone else subconsciously, but it's you didn't fail, you just quit too soon. So in the fitness industry specifically, most people get a lucky break at some point. Someone may get it, the first month, their shit may just pop. Like Mike Dola, not that he was lucky, but his shit popped off really fast. Most people can be successful in whatever they're doing if they stick with it, because something will give at a certain point. It's just, you may be one of the people that it takes 3 years for things to give. And a lot of people quit before that. But things hit if you don't have to, but
stick with it long enough.
You have to give it time.
And I think a big important thing is everyone wants the easy money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You want your clients to put in years worth of work, and then you want to show up, graduate from school, walk into a fitness place, go online and be a big shot. I'm sorry. It's not how it works.
On the other end of this would be interesting. I guess, when is it time for people to realize sometimes, though, that the shit they're doing isn't the right way? Does that make sense? Because how do you get people to that realization or know when to quit?
So you literally pay attention to what you're doing and you quit taking advice from everybody fucking else.
Absolutely.
You listen to all these mastermind and all these articles on the PTDC, and they're great, but use that stuff to get you started, but then pay attention to if shit's working or not.
Yeah.
And then grow from there. Quit listening to everybody else.
And Mike says all the time, just give a shit. Give a shit about yourself.
Yeah.
It's a big pet peeve of mine if fitness professionals don't make every effort to be in the best shape possible. The converse point of that is I'm not saying, hey, you should judge people based on not being in shape. That's not fair. But we have to accept the reality that people, and one of my clients mentioned this to me yesterday and cited a reason why she trains with me is the physical shape that I'm in, and how she would never, she's actually really fit. Like, she's ripped. She's done bikini shows. She would never train with a trainer who wasn't as fit as she is. While that might not seem fair or nice, it's the reality. And if you as a fitness professional are not prepared to face the reality that one of the things holding you back from being busier is the fact that people look at you and think you're not in shape, so I wouldn't train with you. The only thing that will, and this goes to the core of what we're talking about, taking control of the situation. You can piss and moan and cry about all you want. Go do something about it. Get yourself in better shape. And if you're going to use, and I'll say it, excuses as a fitness professional that you don't have enough time, then how are you going to convince a client of yours to make those same sacrifices when they're telling you the same thing if you can't do it? So I don't buy into that. I wanted to finish up with two things. One is luck was mentioned earlier. Don't underestimate the role of luck in all of this. Yes. Luck is a very big player in everything that happens in your life. But the things that you take action on and control and your attitude will put you in a position to benefit from luck a lot better than if you're the person sitting back and just hoping something good happens to you while blaming the world for all the stupid shit that if you look, you might be the common denominator for all the bad things that ever happen to you and continue to happen to you. So it becomes about a change of attitude. So guys, really amazing catch up with all three of you. And this was an unbelievable episode. Anyone listening, the guys will all give you their contact info to find them on social media. Follow them. They're three really, really great guys. Stronger You is doing wonderful stuff. If you are someone who has listened to our podcast for the first time because you follow any of these guys, check out some of our other episodes with Mike Alessi, Mike Dola, the other Stronger You episode. Nick has been on before. We've got a lot of really great stuff. And if you like it, stick around.
I think the best way to end this actually is to wrap up in terms of where's the best place to kind of find information about you. Because we all know you're part of Stronger You, but the cool thing is you each have your own individual brand. So just, I guess, starting with Derek, where's the best place to kind of find information about what you do and read what you write?
The best place to find me is on Facebook, just my name, Derek Stanley. And then I try to do pretty regular posting on Instagram at DStanleyFit, the most cliche fitness person handle on the planet.
I've got on Facebook, Jeb Stewart Johnston, Stuart. And same thing on Instagram. My website is brooklynstrong.net.
Nick's the ghost on the internet.
Yeah, I am. You can find me on Facebook. Just search my name, Nick Sorrell, Sorrell. Instagram, same thing. It's just Nick Sorrell. And then you can find bits and pieces of me at Stronger You through Brian Cron, through Physiconomics, through TLT Revolution. Little bits of me pop up a lot of places, but Facebook's the place to find me.
That was awesome, guys. It's kind of cool to hear perspectives from, I guess, the same organization, but just understanding that within that realm, you can have three different personalities with pretty much a very similar message, just kind of said a different way.
Yeah.
So I hope that the listeners got something out of that in terms of kind of applying that to yourself, and any of the coaches listening, follow these guys, because I think that they have a good understanding of what it takes to have longevity in this, I guess, industry, and it'll be kind of cool to see how things plan out. So see you guys.
And I'll see you guys in about a month, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of Stronger You Radio. These guys taught me so much about fitness. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. I'm really excited to get this Stronger You fitness thing going and would love to have you guys a part of it. On the next episode of Stronger You Radio, we're going to have the start of a new series with Tanner Bays, and this episode is going to be about So You Want to Lose Fat and how to do it. Please be sure to check that out, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Stronger You Radio is a broadcast wellness production powered by StrongerYouFit.com. Content copyright Stronger You. Executive producer Frank Sardella. Thanks for listening to Stronger You Radio. For more information on the podcast, visit StrongerYouPodcast.com.